Coming up on this week's GCN Racing News Show, is there about to be a seismic shift in pro cycling? Because EF Education First have announced a new partnership that's going to see their riders take part in some very different events next year. The European season, meanwhile, wraps up with Il Lombardia and the Tour of Turkey. There's controversy in Hong Kong in the final of the Hammer Series, and it's been a successful weekend of cyclocross for Mathieu Van Der Poel, despite doing this to his ankle. Now, it took me a while to work it out, actually, because that looks a lot thinner than my ankles. But anyway, ouch. Last week, US team EF Education First announced a new partnership with Rapha, who I'm sure need no introduction. Nothing new there, perhaps. I mean, teams often change sponsors, but the partnership is about more than just the riders' clothing. Because next year, we've been told that we can expect to see the likes of Taylor Phinney not only competing in the traditional World Tour races, but also at gravel and fixed gear events as well, presumably meaning things like the Red Hook Crit and the Dirty Kanza. And they will be documenting their journey through video along the way. Why? Because they believe this is going to gain the riders more attention and more fans, and therefore bring a bigger return on the investment from team sponsors than is achieved through competing in second-tier pro-level races. Now, the decision has not been taken on a whim. Rapha recently concluded their 2-year study into the future of professional cycling, interviewing over 50 key players. And although the results have not been made public, we can safely assume that their conclusion was that they could improve on the current model of sponsorship. Now, are they right? Well, the opinions that you gave us last week on this very show regarding the addition of gravel sections in Paris Tour were enlightening. Contrary to the opinion of Quick-Step boss Patrick Lefevre, 68% of you felt that the course change was not a step too far. Griff commented, "Nobody watched Paris Tour before the change. Why not adapt and bring a bike with 28 to 32mm tubeless tyres instead of running 25mm tubulars and complaining when you puncture? Improvise, adapt, overcome." That's a fair point. It seems most of you were in agreement as well. You enjoyed the spectacle. It was something different. I mean, Strada Bianca is a perfect example. That is an event that has become incredibly popular in just 12 editions. And why? Well, 48 kilometers of it are gravel, and it's beautiful and brutal at the same time. It ticks all the boxes. So why not ride 200 kilometers of gravel instead? There is a strong sense among cycling fans that they are crying out for something different, the Red Hook Crit series being a very good example of that. On the weekend of the first of this year's events in Brooklyn, at the end of April, there were a total of 10 UCI-sanctioned road events in Europe alone. It's safe to say that the protagonists in Brooklyn enjoyed as much worldwide exposure as the winner of Stage 2 of the 61st edition of the Vuelta Asturias that same day. Now, on the other hand, though, there is no doubt that the rich history of professional cycling is a huge part of its appeal. I mean, Paris-Roubaix, Milan-San Remo, in fact, all the monuments, they're monuments because of their history. We don't need to mess with them. They are fine just as they are. But that is the very pinnacle of the sport. It's races that are 1 or perhaps 2 levels further down the food chain to which Rapha appears a little bit more sceptical. For example, winning a stage of the Tour de Limousin will mean an awful lot to that rider, given it's a seriously tough race. It'll mean a lot to their immediate family, perhaps to the local newspaper, and to any local hardcore cycling fans. But perhaps it's the fact that it means very little to an international business sponsoring a professional cycling team that is the important point here. Now, we don't know exactly what new events EF Education First are planning on doing in 2019, and we don't know exactly which of their riders will be doing them, but we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure, and it's going to be very interesting to see if this experiment is a successful one. One thing that should be pointed out is that their budget is at the lower end of the World Tour scale, likely less than a third of that of Team Sky, who've not only recently signed Egan Bernal for 5 years, but are also rumoured to have snagged the services of fellow Colombian super talent Ivan Ramirez Sosa. Now, EF are never going to be able to compete with that wealth and depth of talent, so it makes complete sense that they are thinking outside the box when it comes to giving their sponsors maximum exposure throughout the season. So here's hoping that it leads to job security for their riders and staff, and a spectacle for us. Now, as ever, we would love to hear your thoughts. Are EF Education First Draft Pack presented by Cannondale taking steps that others will follow? Or do you think that pro cycling is fine just the way it is? Let us know in the comments section below. Now, talking of historical and beautiful races, it was the 112th edition of arguably the most beautiful Il Lombardia on Saturday. In an effort to spice things up 8 years ago, organiser RCS Sport added, not gravel, but the Muro di Sormano, a cruelly steep climb with an eye-watering maximum gradient of 27%. Now this year, it was the pivotal point in the race. Double winner Vincenzo Nibali went on the attack, and only Thibaut Pinot was able to match. And it would ultimately be the Frenchman who would snatch victory from the jaws of the shark himself. Pinot is in the form of his life. He dropped Nibali on the last main climb with 20 k's to go and would never be seen again. Now this time last week, Pinot had never won a one-day professional bike race, but now he's won 2. His victory on Saturday came off the back of victory at Milano-Torino 2 days previously. Clearly how you end your season in style. And because of that, we are going to go for the blindingly obvious choice for our Rider of the Week this week, Chapeau Thibaut Pinot. Now, prior to those 2 races, Sonny Colbrelli produced one of the longest sprints I've ever seen to win Gran Piemonte, whilst Tom Scoynes completed a solid season for him by winning at Tre Valle Varesini. Now, incidentally, if you would like to follow the commute home from work for Thomas de Gent and Tim Welland, follow the hashtag #TheFinalBreakaway on Twitter and Instagram, because the Lotto Soudal duo are doing a little bit of bike packing, riding back from Il Lombardia to their homes in Belgium this week. And yes, they will probably get themselves and their sponsors a lot of publicity for that. They have even got new bikes from Ridley for the occasion. On to the rough stuff now, and the cyclocross season continued at the weekend with a 4th round of the Brico Cross on Saturday and the 1st round of the Super Prestige on Sunday. In Lokeren, the expected Van Der Poel-Van Aert duel didn't happen after Van Der Poel made an uncharacteristic technical mistake through one of the many ditches that littered the course. Now, he remounted, but soon called it a day, his ankle swelling up like a balloon. He was taken off on a stretcher, and I think we all expect him to be out for at least a few weeks. But not so. Incredibly, he made the 3-hour trip to Gieten, where he managed not only to start, but also win comfortably. So balloon ankles, clearly not a reason to hold you back. Now, Van Aert had his own problems on Saturday, puncturing a long way from the pits and ultimately rolling in 6th, over a minute down on race winner Dan Sote. And that result threw up this incredible stat from Cyclocross 24 on Twitter. Wout van Aert and Mathieu Van Der Poel have ridden in the same race 134 times since they were juniors, and always one of them has stood on the podium until today. Hashtag CX Facts. There we go, there's a hashtag to follow. Anyway, how incredible is that? There was no such trouble on Saturday for the Women's World Champion, Sanne Cant, who powered her way to victory. On Sunday, however, she was involved in a crash on the first lap that ended her chances of victory. And up front, it looked as though Marianne Vos would take another convincing win, but it was not to be. 22-year-old former under-23 world champion Annemarie Wurst of Staelerts 777 took the biggest elite win of her career, leaving the almighty Vos in 2nd place. The Super Prestige continues this Saturday in Boom, and you can catch both the women's and men's event live on our Facebook page. Stop! It's hammer time. Yes, the Hammer Series finished off in Hong Kong at the weekend, with Mitchelton Scott making it a clean sweep for the series. In the final team time trial pursuit, they had just managed to hold off Quick-Step Floors, who were perhaps still recovering from the previous race's controversy. Initially, they had been called as the winners of the sprint event, but it turned out that 2 of their riders had actually taken a lap out after puncturing, before then rejoining the race in the lead group. The team was relegated to 2nd, but received no further punishment, allowing them to therefore race in the following team time trial. And it's Bor Hansgrohe who rounded out the podium in 3rd. Now, finally, the 6-day Tour of Turkey came right down to the wire on the final stage yesterday. In finishing 2nd, Eduard Prades of Euskadi Murias team overhauled overnight race leader and winner of the Queen stage, Alexei Lutsenko of Astana. The 6-second bonus that Prades picked up put him level on time with Lutsenko, but he was awarded the win due to a better average finishing position. Winner on the stage was Sam Bennett, but not in his usual style. He chose not to wait for the finish at all and attacked with over 1 kilometre to go, holding on to win by 6 seconds. Now that added to the wins that he had already taken on stages 2 and 3, and Quickstep Floors picked up their 70th and 71st wins of the season on stages 1 and 5 through Max Ricchesi and Jose Alvaro Hodge respectively. Right, that's all for this week. Don't forget to give us your opinions on the future of professional cycling in the comments section. Speaking of which, if you're not entirely sure what these other events are all about, then we've got a great example for you now. Our very own Hank competed recently at the Red Hook Crit in Milan. So to find out what it's all about and how he got on, click just down there.